Welcome to another episode of Breaking into Cybersecurity. And today we have Eugene, who will be talking about solution architecture and cybersecurity solution architecture at a higher level. Um, he has years of experience working within MSSPs as well as other organizations doing this. And I don't want to kind of overshadow his experience, but I'll let him talk to you about his background. What got you into cybersecurity to begin with, and then what made you choose solutions architecture?
So first of all, Chris, thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm happy to be here today. For your questions about what got me into it was quite interesting. I spent 5 years in the Navy, more on IT, Linux, networking. And when I was done with my duty, I was looking for where to work. And I found a company called Checkpoint back in Israel that was looking for QA engineers. So I actually started to work in cyber doing QA for firewalls. Part of my work was to debug and understand how the next generation firewalls, as we know it right now, are working. So understanding SMTP, HTTP, POP3, IMAP, FTP, and many other protocols for deep inspection and how they're working. Later on, when I moved to Canada, I joined a company called Horjove Group. And in Horjove Group, I had the opportunity to work with many enterprise customers in Canada, US, and Europe as well. And also slowly kind of, I guess, grow in the company. So I started as an engineer. Later on, I managed several teams in delivery of work, network security, endpoint security, same, and some others. And as part of managing the teams, I started to learn more and more about other solutions. And if any of the listeners ever work with firewalls, you're probably familiar with the idea that people blame the firewall for everything. Maybe a bit less right now, but 15 years ago, everybody blamed firewalls for everything. So you end up learning about everything around you, how they work, how SQL is working, how load balancing is working, because you needed to defend that it wasn't the firewall. And slowly, it got me to the point when I would join customer calls and they will ask not just for one problem, they will ask how to design the architecture, how firewall will work with SIEM, how firewall will work with DLP, how web gateway will work with DLP, how we hide users, how we understand users with the next generation power. And this led me step by step to do solution architecture. I did a couple of big projects with DLP. Trust me, major pain in the butt, excuse my French, especially around 12 years ago. A lot of strange protocols, a lot of connectivity problems, a lot of load balancing and scalability problems. So right now, after so many years in the space, I'm well familiar with the entire ecosystem of vendors. Even so, we have every 2 days, 2 weeks, brand new vendor or brand new domain that it required learning and required you to understand how they work. But on a higher level, how they integrate, how they talk to each other, I'm well familiar. And I also like to learn and understand more.
So as you went along in your career and you're learning more about this, it sounds like you started as an infrastructure engineer or designer, and then you started to understand how these solutions function. How would someone go into the field of becoming a solutions architect?
Good question, as we say in the industry. I'll suggest, first of all, learn networking. Understand how networking working, routing, different devices in the ecosystem, how router, how switch, how load balancer working, what is the WAF, what is the upgrade, then move and understand protocols. You need to really understand the nuances in protocols. You need to understand right now, I think it's mandatory to understand APIs. Majority of the current vendors are in the cloud, and it's mean majority of the ways they're going to communicate is using APIs. Not just in the cloud, on-prem as well right now. So all these nuances are important for communication, and there are specific protocols that are required for certain types that you need to understand. You really want to dive in and understand the idea about high availability and clustering. There is different types of clustering and different types of high availability. But guess what? They're going to be very similar on a higher level how they work because you have active, you have active backup, you can have synchronization between them. So you want to get this big picture of how stuff usually work. You definitely want to understand about logging, how syslog is working, how different other protocols are working as well. You want to understand about health. Is SNMP still important for hardware? Yes, for cloud a bit less probably right now. There's a variety of higher level architecture you want to understand. But you also want to go and dive in to different technologies as part of the network and then as part of the cloud. The other way, if you want to go and specialize more on the cloud part, we have this amazing frameworks from Azure, AWS, GCP, AWS called a well-architected framework. Go learn it, go read it, understand what's required there. So there's different ways to get in. And the last one is, of course, go and be part of the project. We learned the best when we have problems and need to solve problems.
Wow. So it sounds like as a solutions architect, you have to be a jack of all trades. You have to know a little bit about everything. But are you expected to be the master of them all, or do you end up working as part of a larger team?
I think in reality, it's impossible to be the master of all. It's human being impossible. So I left the idea of have the knowledge about the configure a tool. I don't even trying to because I know it's just going to be impossible to keep up. If you ask me, I'll probably be able to learn and figure out. But I think it's more important to understand the capability of the tool and if it's possible and asking the right questions and guiding the engineers or people in professional services if they can actually do it. You want to understand the difference in acronyms and the difference in how traffic flow working or how application security is working. So I definitely will not suggest to be the master. Having said this, help me to be a master of you when I started, because I really went deep on firewalls, endpoint security later on as well. So it helped me to master something, even so right now I'm not on this level.
So, which everything seems to be cloud first for a lot of organizations. Have you found like a particular cloud that might be easier to get familiar with if you're going down this route where you're trying to learn about networking, you're trying to learn about the protocols, you're trying to learn about how all the solutions come together, or are you still a fan of set it up in your house and make it all work and then you could go play in the cloud?
Cloud definitely work differently than your home environment. If you want to learn the cloud, I believe AWS still have much more information available. Having said this, there's a lot of information about Azure and then GCP as well. So you can learn there. Even so, in a cloud, the network is a bit different ways to work. I really don't think you need to go and buy servers for home and do it because you can have a combination between have certain things in the cloud and certain things in a virtual machine and certain things in a network. So there's definitely a way to do it hybrid. What I would suggest for people that have like zero experience is understand your home network. Understand and whiteboard your home network. Do you have a router? You probably have. Do you have a wireless controller? You probably have. Is it all in one? Maybe you have more. Where are you getting the DHCP from? What is DHCP? Why DHCP is important? How DNS is working? From where are you getting your DNS? How do you get to the internet? So all these basic level protocols are quite fundamental and important. And then you can extend, build a server somewhere in the cloud, assign it a DNS address, make it static, try to reach to it, try to understand what's happening with the packet. You will be very surprised if you try to sniff the packet and then from the traffic and see what you see inside. There's going to be a lot of, I don't want to say garbage, but a lot of noise inside the traffic capture. So all these low level things are quite important, but also the ability to draw them on a whiteboard or on a diagram are important as well for visualization. I believe for solution architecture, it required you to have a strong visualization techniques and abilities because in many cases you have to go layer deeper or layer higher. The layer higher are going to be the concept diagram. I have these devices, then layer inside where they're located, and maybe inside if there's a high availability, what kind of IP addresses they have, maybe even lower what kind of network cards they have or how many cables are located, or we have any ways to maybe have multiple cables as well and have a high availability on a network cable. So there are certainly different levels of how deep you can go, and you cannot put them on one diagram, and you shouldn't put them on one diagram because it's going to be very, very messy. So start with home, do a cloud, put a couple of devices, see what you can do. There's also certain applications, Cisco has them many and probably other vendors as well, when you can have a virtual network as like a network simulator as well to understand how it's working.
Yeah, I was just working with a client of mine, and as part of our disaster recovery plan, I was trying to get them to draw out their application architecture, their data flow diagrams. Where's data going? What type of data is there? Is it sensitive data? Is it not sensitive data? What sort of protocols are you using to protect it? And all these things. So that they fully understand in an incident, what are we dealing with? Like what sort of protocols we have to troubleshoot, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I know you wrote a book about this. Tell me about like what went into writing this book, and why did you want to write this book when there's so many courses out there?
So I wrote the book actually about soft skills. I didn't write a book about architecture. I wrote a book about communicating the information across people because I saw a big gap and a problem in our industry where we have amazingly smart people that having a hard time to outcome and explain in a very simple and business terms what's happening and what they're trying to achieve. So the book is more focusing on communication and delivery of information. I have a sound here. I'm apologies about this.
Okay.
About the communication of delivery of the information and how to connect to other person to explain to them your ideas, to explain to them in the terms they care. If you want to talk about perimeter security, maybe you have an analogy about the house with a fence, with the camera, with the alarm, with the doors, with the windows. Like camera maybe can see the problem, we cannot really do anything, but the dog may be able to stop the people, or the fans you're able to stop the people as well. There is different level of security controls, but there is different way to communicate these security controls and these ideas to people. So I decided to kind of do a step left or right or higher from cybersecurity and actually write a book about communication. And also it's include how you work with your voice, how you work with video, because right now majority of the calls are done on video and it become quite a main way of delivery of information. Can you see your face? Can we see your background? These people can understand you really well.
So it sounds like all of these skills and competencies lay into how you would solution an architecture for an organization, because you need to understand not only what you're trying to achieve, but you're also trying to communicate that in an effective way with business leaders, with technical leaders, and being able to go up and down those levels, potentially all within the same call, and do that in an effective manner.
100%. You're absolutely right. If we just develop a very complex solution or we need to solve a very complex problem, and I don't know how to deliver this in a very concise format, in a very simple English as well, or business English, then we have a big problem because the management don't understand the nuances. The management don't care about APIs. They don't care about SQL and syslog, and other different things. They care about the business, how they make money. So you're absolutely right. As part of the journey in a technical world and climbing up in a ladder, we need, I think that we must to learn how to explain complicated ideas in a concise and simple language.
So, if I understood your journey correctly, like you start with understanding all the technical terms, how everything functions, being able to visualize it for yourself, for others, and then now you move on to the soft skills of now being able to talk to the business in the business language based on all the technical diagrams, all the technical terms, and then how you're using them to achieve business goals and business mission.
I think you're absolutely right. With one small addition, I'll suggest to start learning the soft skills right away.
Okay.
And you can learn them by communicating to other people. As an easy way, I always tell people when you're buying groceries in a store, you can make the cashier smile. You can try to have a small conversation with the cashier to improve her or his day, for example. And this will require you to step out a bit of your comfort zone and find a topic to talk to. And this small tidbits of exercise will help you to figure out if there's a better way to connect to someone. And if you think about that, when we're losing this physical connection to people in the same room and we're talking to someone over Zooms, Google Meets, Teams, it's a bit harder because we don't see their entire body language. In some cases, we don't even have a camera on, so we don't see them as well. So learn the networking part, learn the engineering part, learn the cloud, learn the security, but please spend a bit of time on communicating your ideas. And this could be as simple as explaining to your friends, explaining to your spouse, explaining to your kids what you're learning, what are you doing, because you will have to change the language, you have to change the terms you are using.
So we almost have to pivot away from being so technical and being so analytical to focus on communication first and technical second.
So let's piggyback on what you're saying. Let's say you ask me, Evgeny, I need you to go configure this very complicated device, whatever it is. Let's not jump to names of the vendors. In reality, if I know I need to do XYZ, and I know the device name and the model and the version and what's required, I can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, how do I configure XYZ? I need to know what I'm asking. And it will actually tell me where I need to go and configure, which commands I need to use in case there's a console or just a dashboard. So do I really need to remember all the steps and all this terminology, or I need to know what I want to do and the AI will help me there. I'm not saying AI going to replace us, but AI can help us to do the small things if I know what I want. So if I'm going to spend time to understand the bigger picture, I can rely on technology to help me with the small, very tactical and very precise tasks.
Okay. We have a comment from one of our listeners. Learn everything about the product and then never mention it again. How do you
It's,
feel?
it's a good one. Somebody asked for a link for the book. I'm going to put a link to the website.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we're gonna share that website for those. But with regards to learning new concepts, learning new products, you mentioned sharing that with your family and sharing that in an easy way. Um, what are some of the techniques that you use to not bore your family about cybersecurity?
So you're absolutely right. If you every day you're going to talk about firewalls, clusters, EDRs, OPSEC, people going to just stop inviting you to their houses. So what do is you need to find metaphors to the stuff they care. You need to find a way to explain in the language they understand. And it's going to be an interesting game for you to play to find how you can explain this to someone that will care about this. So let's think about this. Let's say you want to find and explain supply chain attack. Can you explain this to someone that is not in profession? Maybe you want to help talking to a friend that he's working in construction. So you can explain them in the terms. Hey, what happened if you run out of nails? What happened if you run out of something else? Or the type of material you need is not available and do an analogy there. Maybe you can describe to someone about endpoint security and antivirus. So this is easier because everybody majority of the time familiar with the antivirus, but how are you going to explain behavior versus not behavior analytics? So there is a lot of different ideas that you can do. So it's almost become like a game, how you can simplify stuff to explain to friends what you do. And it will require you to rethink the concept as well.
Interesting, interesting. So with the evolution of Chat GPT and all these large learning models, do you feel that we're not learning the fundamentals and we're not really understanding the basics of how things work, and we go straight to Chat GPT? Is that going to hurt us in the long run?
I'm afraid a bit yes, because right now it's very easy to go and ask ChatGPT and forget about this. I don't have a precise answer what will happen in 10 years, especially with our kids that right now can do the same to the point they don't want to do mathematics. They're going to just ask Google ChatGPT how much is XYZ. So we are potentially losing this ability. I hope not. I hope people still understand that if ChatGPT not available, or Google not available, or Alexa, or all of these tools, that we can still achieve. It's kind of funny because when I was in school, my parents told me we didn't have calculators. We did everything on a paper. And right now, we tell our kids there was no ChatGPT. We did everything on a calculator or on paper. So it's similar story, but on a different level. It's probably something we'll have to emphasize with our kids or the younger generation, or even with us when we learn new topics, that it's still important to learn the fundamentals to make sure we can still survive without these tools.
So Clifford said he had to come up with a story about why customers buy his products. He says he sells on the weekends and he sells paychecks. That the tech I sold, both for business and everything else, were more important about personal outcomes for my customers. And I'd say yes. If you could focus on the outcomes, you worry less about selling the product, because your customers understand that you're trying to achieve their goal versus just trying to sell your hammer to hit any nail that you see around.
With analogy.
So we have a couple more minutes, and I wanted to pick your brain in regards to um, your 5 tips for effective communication. What would be your 5 tips for effective communication out of your book that you might want to suggest to folks?
Great. So number one is type of questions to ask. Open question versus closed question. If I want the other person, the customer or the individual to talk, I want to choose open-ended questions versus closed-ended question. For example, we just talked about firewalls for several times. I'm not going to ask Christopher how many firewalls you have. You will say 5, 10, 20. Or what type of firewall you have. You say Juniper, Cisco, Checkpoint, Palo. I'll ask you, can you describe the firewall environment? Now you have to open up. And this could be in cloud, endpoint, application security. We need to choose different types of questions. Or we can say, can you elaborate more? Please provide more information. So as a way to open up, to give more, to ask for more information. So this is number one, use of open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions, where the other one is also important, but in a different way. When you need to actually understand how many license you need, or you need to understand and calculate how much day it will take to do a certain job, or what is the version of the firewall, because you need to understand the upgrade process. They're going to ask, hey, what's the version of the firewall? Because you want to understand this part, but usually come later. Number two, I think it's quite important to learn to use your voice better. And this means to potentially to go to a voice coach, to understand your voice, to do a gap analysis on your voice, to understand, do you have a lot of filler words? Do you potentially not very coherent when you speak? Can you slow down? Can you speed up? Everybody is different. I needed to learn how to slow down. I needed to find the middle range because I had high pitch, low pitch, but nothing in the middle. It's also quite interesting and important to work with your filler words. And I suggest not take into the account to remove filler words. I'll suggest to augment filler words to pauses. We have in our mind something that if we're gonna continuously provide sounds, we're gonna sound more smart or vice versa. But in reality, if you speak and you will just create pauses between, nothing will happen. Versus, hi, I'm Evgeny. Today, we'll talk about files. No, you can just slow down a bit and replace the filler words with pauses. It takes time. It takes weeks, months, and sometimes longer. Took me quite a long time to remove majority of my filler words. I still have some. You have a lot of tools for your disposal. You can record yourself on a phone. You can transcribe it with amazing AI tools. They can tell you what you use. But there's definitely a way for you to become a better communicator. Three, this is a very interesting one. Fear. How many, and I'm not sure how many people listening right now, but please answer. Did you ever had a training about how to overcome fear? Majority of the people I'm asking usually didn't have such training. The only people that will probably are the ones that did some kind of stage, like theater, and they had some training, or maybe had some kind of fighting and they basically fight in a club or somebody trained them, or maybe military. Majority of us never had such experience or such training. And it's mean when somebody asking you go present, go do, go deliver, and you're afraid, you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to slow down, how to use your breathing, how to control your heart rate, or even understand that you're right now panicking and you're under pressure. Part of the problem resolution is to understand you have a problem. And the moment you understand, oh, every time I present to my team, I kind of jiggling, I'm panicking. Oh, okay, nice. I understand right now. Can I use this and transform it to something else? Can I transform fear to excitement? Because fear is not bad, fear is good. If I see a lion on the street, I probably don't want to get to the line. So I have a fear internally that make tell me, again, it's a bad idea. It's a not a small kitty cat, it's a very big kitty cat. So we can use this fear for our good. Fourth one is video. Can you have a better video stuff at home? Can you have a better camera? I use a teleprompter right now, so I'm looking right at you when I'm speaking to you. If I look on the screen on the left, I'm still going to see you, but now you see only side of my face when I still see you. So it's going to be not the best communication with me because you just see part of my face. Can I use lights? Can I use a green screen? Can I use a better microphone? There's many different things we can do with our home setup that the other person on the other side will have a better experience. This could be customers, this could be your teammates, and many, many other things. This is number four. And number five, I think it's also, again, there's many different things in the book, is learning how to communicate with your teammates. If we think about that, we all different. Some of us consume information over video better, some of us over audio, some of us need to play with it. There's many, many different modalities about how we learn and who we are. And in many cases, we have the assumption that everybody are similar to us, but it's not. And it's actually good because other people will be better doing other things. Some will be better doing short projects, some will have long projects, some will require more time to think about the problem and find, sorry, about the solution to find the problem. Some will do it right away, but we all complement each other. And if we work as a team, we'll able to accomplish much more versus just one or two people will be superstars. So learn about these modalities, learn about how to better communicate with people, and don't forget to ask for guidance. If you didn't understand, ask, hey, can you elaborate? Can you explain? Can you guide me? What is the better way to communicate with you?
I love it. I love it. Some of the feedback from the audience: speaking slower and purposeful pauses gives your audience time to think and time to respond better. That is very true. And with regards to your comment about using filler words, I learned through podcasting and through editing after, removing the filler words, how annoying it was. So to prevent that, I worked on myself for that, to reduce the number of filler words. But then you have pauses. So sometimes you have the effects of filler words, or you have the effects of longer pauses. Both can have an impact on your audience. So you have to choose how long your pauses or how short your pauses for effect as well. And then Paul mentions for interviews, I started using Vidyard, keep recording myself walking through my resume. Yes, it builds confidence to walk through your resume, your experience multiple times, because then you're just storytelling. You're having a conversation versus trying to remember something from a random question. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming today and for sharing your advice. Thank you so much for creating this book and focusing on soft skills. I know it's often an underappreciated capability within this industry. Thank you so much for coming on today. Any final words?
Yes, people mentioned about voice. Don't get discouraged. I don't think I know anyone that recorded themselves first time and likes their voice. It took me 8 months to be okay with my voice. So keep going. And the last part, find mentor, somebody or friend that will help you to move on, how to become better in soft skills. And actually, last part, let me add a link, because if you're not going to even get the book, it's fine. But in the end of the book, there's something called SSDP. It's a soft skills development plan that can help you to become a better speaker, communicator in general. And it's a 30, 60, 90, 120 days. Chris, if you can put this in a link, this way you can just download this from my website and seeing how you can progress for the next 4 months to become a better person.
Absolutely. I'll add that to the comments here, and then I'll also add it to the show notes when we publish our podcast. So everyone, thank you for listening on Breaking into Cybersecurity, and check out the links in the show notes. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.